Number 4 on this list opened the world's very first Christmas grotto in 1879, and generations of children met Father Christmas for the first time under its roof. Number 2 was built by a farmer's son from the Welsh hills who arrived in the city with almost nothing and ended up owning one of the grandest stores in the north of England. And number 1 was so woven into the life of ordinary families that your grandmother kept a single number in her head for 40 years, and every time she shopped, she said it out loud at the counter. 5 great stores, every one of them gone. If you shopped in the towns and cities of Britain in the 60s and 70s, your mother took you by the hand through every single one of them. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next video, because we're only just getting started on the Britain worth remembering. Number 1. Rackham's. For anyone who grew up in the Midlands, a trip into Birmingham meant a trip to Rackham's, the grand store on the corner of Corporation Street, the place you put on your good coat to visit. It had begun in the 19th century as a modest draper's and grown into the most prestigious store in the city, the one where you bought the wedding present, the christening gown, the thing that had to be right. What almost nobody remembers now is that Rackham's was swallowed whole by the great House of Fraser Empire, which spread the name to other cities and then, one by one, took it away again. You rode the escalator up through the perfume on the ground floor, past the haberdashery, where a woman measured ribbon against a brass rule set into the counter, up to the restaurant, where your grandmother had a pot of tea and a fancy on a Saturday afternoon. The name that meant the very best of your city was quietly retired, the grand corner store rebranded, and then, in most towns, closed altogether. The next store began at the seaside. Number 2, Bobby's. Along the whole south coast of England, in the genteel seaside towns where families went on their summer holidays, the name above the grandest store was Bobby's. Frederick James Bobby had bought a draper's shop in Margate in 1887, and from that single Kent shop he built a chain of elegant department stores in the resort towns, Eastbourne and Torquay and Bournemouth, Folkestone and Leamington Spa. What almost nobody remembers is that Bobby's chose its towns with great care, always the smart resort, always the best position, the store where holiday makers in their Sunday best browsed the counters on a wet afternoon when the beach was no good. You remember the marble, the uniformed man at the door, the tea room with a pianist where your mother felt, for an hour, like a woman of leisure. Then in the early 1970s, the owners, the great Debenhams Group, made a decision in a boardroom far away. The whole chain would be brought under a single name. In 1972 and 1973, the Bobby's stores had their proud old name taken down, and the Debenhams sign put up in its place. The store your family had known for generations became, overnight, the same as every other. The next store was a farmer's son made good. Number 3. Owen Owen. He was born in 1847 on a hill farm in the Welsh mountains, one of 6 children, his mother dead when he was 8. The family land sold from under them in hard times. At 20, in 1868, Owen Owen opened a small draper's shop on London Road in Liverpool, selling Welsh flannel, and within 5 years he had 120 staff, many of them Welsh like himself. What almost nobody knows is what kind of man he was. He was the first employer in Liverpool to give his staff a half-day off every week, and he set up a trust fund for those who grew too old to work, at a time when nobody thought they had to. The store grew into one of the largest in the north of England and moved to a grand, purpose-built emporium on Clayton Square, a building first designed as a luxury hotel. Owen Owen himself died in 1910, and the store carried his name on through the century, the place where Liverpool families bought their wedding outfits and their Christmas gifts. But the retail world grew harder. The family sold the business in the 1980s, and after passing through hand after hand, it finally slipped into administration in 2007. the name gone after 139 years. The next store gave the world something we still see every December. Number 4. Lewis's. In 1856, a young man named David Lewis opened a small shop in Liverpool, selling clothes for men and boys, aimed not at the rich, but at the working people of the city, with a promise he called being a friend to the people. From that one shop grew a great chain, in Manchester and Birmingham and Glasgow and Leeds, each store a landmark at the heart of its city. Here is what almost nobody knows. In 1879, David Lewis opened the world's very first Christmas grotto, a magical Christmas fairyland, and it is written into the record books as the first of its kind anywhere on Earth. Every grotto your child has ever queued for, every department store Father Christmas in every town, began in that Liverpool store. Generations of children met Father Christmas for the very first time under its roof, the display in the end covering 10,000 square feet. Above the great Liverpool doorway stood a giant statue of a naked man, put there to mark the city rising again after the war, and everyone in Liverpool knew it, and everyone arranged to meet beneath it. Before we go on, I want to ask you something. One of these stores is not really a building in your memory. It is a feeling, the smell of the perfume hall, your hand in your mother's on the escalator. Tell me in the comments which store just came back to you. I read every single one. Lewis's held on longer than most, but the city changed around it. The trade drifted to the new waterfront, and in 2010, after 154 years, the doors of the great store closed for the last time. The last store on this list belonged, in a way, to the shoppers themselves. Number 5. The Co-op department store. In town after town across Britain, one of the biggest stores was the cooperative, the grand emporium owned not by a family or a company, but by its own members, by ordinary people who held a share in it. And every one of those members had a number. What almost nobody under a certain age remembers is the divvy, the dividend. Every time your grandmother shopped at the co-op, she recited her membership number to the assistant at the counter, and it was written down. And twice a year, the profits were shared back out to the members, according to how much they had spent. That number was sacred. Families kept the same one for decades, and children were made to learn it by heart in case they were ever sent to the shop. You remember the cash carriers, the little canisters that whizzed your mother's money along wires to a cashier in a booth high above the floor and sent the change whirring back. You remember the funeral department and the food hall and the drapery, all under one roof, the whole of respectable life provided by an institution that belonged to the people who used it. The divvy faded through the 1960s and 70s as the supermarkets undercut it, replaced first by stamps and then by plastic, and the great co-op department stores closed or shrank one by one. 5 great stores, all gone. Rackham's, Bobby's, Owen, Lewis's, the co-op. These were not just places to buy things. They were where British life happened. The good coat, the Saturday tea, the first meeting with Father Christmas, the number your grandmother knew by heart. Which one did your family shop in? Tell me in the comments. Say the store, one memory, one detail. And if there was a grand old store in your own town that did not make this list, put that in too, because those are the ones most worth remembering. Subscribe, because there is a great deal more of this country left to remember.